Hi, welcome to Senior Moment, the show for seniors to watch. I'm your host, Mary Beals-Ludka. I work for NACOG, Area Agency on Aging, and you can reach me toll-free at 877-521-3500. Welcome. Our show is sponsored by the Division of Lifelong Learning, which is part of Yavapai College, and our producer is Crystal Erickson. And if you want to reach Crystal, her number is 717-7607. And she loves to hear from you about the show. Maybe you have a suggestion for some topics you'd like to hear, or you have questions about the show you're seeing here today. We have a very special guest, actually two guests today. The boss of the show, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but the Dean of the Division of Lifelong Learning is here with us, Dennis Garvey.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, Dennis. And with him is a member of his advisory council, Gary Stokes.
Hello, Mary.
Hi. Thank you both for joining us today on Senior Moment to talk about a new venture. Something that we read about last month, I believe, in the paper, made the front page, about a retiree connection. And I want to start out with a little bit of background about how this came to be and how the idea was born.
Sure, I can give you that background. This really was an idea of President Horton. When he arrived on campus, one of his first tasks was to really get out into the community. And as people know, he's out in the community a lot because we're a college of the community, and that's a good place to start with the people to see what we can do for them. So he toured around and made acquaintance with a lot of talented people, older adults, mature adults, whatever you want to call. And he talked to me one time and he said, you know, we've got to do something in terms of using this talent and skills. And his focus is on economic development, as this area needs. And he just saw the tremendous amount of talent that was in the community. And he really sort of gave us a charge of try to find a way to connect that talent to opportunities in the community to make it a healthier place, a stronger economy, provide meaning for the people that are involved. And that's how the retiree connection was born.
And Gary, how do you come into the picture? I believe you've been involved since the very beginning?
Yes, I have, Mary. I met Dennis a few years ago when I was volunteering for United Way, and we were doing some strategic planning for the community. And it was then that I learned for the first time that 25% or so of our Yavapai County population is over 65. In other words, we have a very unusual demographic here. I believe that Yavapai County is one of the oldest counties in the United States. So we're sort of a picture of the future, I discovered, and I became interested in what the potential of this large group of people over 60 might be, and that subject hadn't been experimented with very much, and so thus was born the idea that maybe we need to make Yavapai County a national laboratory to discover more about what the potential of this aging group might be.
And what is your background?
I've spent a career in leadership development around transformational social change. So I've spent my career trying to figure out with leaders how to make paradigm shifts, and so that background really aligns with what we're talking about here, because we've been questioning the traditional American model of retirement, which has us, finally getting enough money and then we quit and go on permanent vacation to do we're not quite sure what. That's the model we've been questioning, and supposing that there might be a lot more positive model that we could create.
And wasn't the model first kind of marketed by retirement community corporations, trying to think, oh, here's the golden, you can golf, you can vacation, Del Webb, and that they thought, oh, you wouldn't live as long. Now we're living so much longer, and I like what we were saying earlier before we started the show is, what am I going to be when I grow up?
Right.
Who am I?
Well, research shows that we're always becoming, and Carl Rogers, the great humanist, wrote the book called On Becoming, and research in a lot of different ways says that we're always refining our sense of self, and have opportunities to learn new things and challenging things and integrate that into that sense of who we are. one of the roadblocks for that, of course, is, as we were just saying, is our culture, who tells us, okay, thanks a lot, you're done. Go
See
sit
ya.
in that chair and don't get out of it. And that's a waste of talent, and it's really rude.
Well, it is really rude.
Yep.
You know, and you brought up the paradigm shift and changing people's consciousness about how do we think about aging. And so this retiree connection is going to fit right into that from what I've read about it. How does it differ from a job bank, for instance?
Well, I think some people in this age group, of course, are interested in continuing to work part or full time, may need to actually, or just want to stay active. So that is part of the discussion we've been having. But I think that we're even more interested, again, in, you said, Dennis, that Carl Rogers said that there's a psychological truth about human beings that we're becoming. That necessarily, in my opinion, has not been part of our American model for retirement. Yep. In other words, yes, when you're a kid you are becoming, and when you're an adult in your working years you're becoming, but now that you're in retirement, well, we're not interested in you becoming anymore, so we don't assume that you have potential. So you may have potential to make a career change, a shift in work, but it could be much more than that. So we've been thinking that maybe the foundation of a new model for retirement would be the assumption that people after 60 can still grow in a dynamic way, grow and develop, if people have the proper support, and if they have a community they can join where that's sort of the given.
I was looking over your strategies and in reflecting on the 25%, and we are looking like what the rest of the nation is going to look like in 20 years,
right?
Or 10 years.
Well, you know, we used to say 20,
yeah,
but it's we're at 2009.
Yeah,
so
I'm backing off here.
let's
10
say,
years.
Yeah, 10 to 13.
Yeah, in 10 or 13 years. And so, are you looking at this as a laboratory for a model? Is anyone else doing something like this?
Yeah, around the country, you know, the whole notion of encore careers and re-careering and civic ventures that's doing a lot of work. I think what makes us unique is that we have the demographics, we have an aged mixed community, and we have a real desire to do some pre and post analysis of what we're hearing, so that we will share that with the rest of the people that aren't here yet. And that's what makes it different than a job bank. We're not a job bank. There are job banks out there. We're really, what we're developing, what we're calling is a skills bank.
Okay.
So a collection of talents, like asset-based community development. Yeah. Instead of going out to seek funding for this, we're going to need some, but we're looking at what are the strengths and talents that are already here that are unutilized, and how can we connect them with opportunities for a nonprofit, for civic, for retail, to strengthen given the talent that's out there. It works both ways, you know.
So are you up and running to the point where I could go to the college and sign up?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and
yeah.
how does that work?
You may call 928-717-7633.
Okay.
That's Donna Bellina. She's an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer who's working with us to really begin to operationalize this, and that's, you know, to be open. And we've been working towards this for about a year, a little over. Or you can go to the college website, and you can type in www.yc, Yavapai College, yc.edu/retiree connection. And what that will connect you to through the website is our skills bank. And we're encouraging everybody that hears about us to go to the website, fill in the skills bank, so that we can begin to see the mosaic that's out there in the community and really the richness that's there, and from there begin to work to make some connections.
And we truly have a rich community. I've been amazed in my work in aging. The kind of volunteers that we've gotten, you know, in the whole Tri-City area is just phenomenal. Here you are volunteering for this project, and look at your background. You know, all those skills that you can bring to the table, and it's just amazing what we have. And I certainly know that when I grow up, I'm not going to always want to be an area agency and aging director, but how can I use my skills to do something maybe different, a different challenge, maybe less stressful?
Part-time, paid consulting, volunteer. You know, the old notion of, you know, when I get older, I'm going to volunteer, again, worked good if you lived 5 years. But now that we're living 10, 20, 30, 40 years longer, well, maybe some paid consulting would be good for this. Another piece of the skills bank is, and this relates to what you were just talking about, is the change and transition dialogues. And Gary's been really helpful in putting those things together. So we should talk about that as another option of what we're going to be doing.
Okay, so Gary.
Well, one thing that we've talked about a great deal, Mary, is our lack of knowledge about this age group. Yes, a great deal of research has been done, as you two experts know, but here in Yavapai County, if we have 50 to 70,000 people, depending on where you start this age, 55 up, we have tens of thousands of people in this age group living in this county. We're not absolutely sure how many of those people volunteer, how many of those people work. We're not sure what they're thinking. We're not sure whether they feel underemployed, although our initial discussions with people indicate that yes, many of us feel underemployed. We're highly educated. For instance, there's a group of us who are highly educated. We've had very sophisticated work, and it's hard to plug those skills and that background into kind of ordinary volunteering. There's nothing wrong with helping with Meals on Wheels. It's a good thing to do, but it may leave me unused in some capacities. And so we're not sure how people are viewing all this, although, as I said, all of the people in our advisory group are retired. And they've been sharing their experience, and some of the astounding things people say are things like, nobody's talked to me, this is a 65-year-old man, nobody's talked to me about my potential for about 10 years. Another person said, sometimes my wife and I don't leave our house for 2 or 3 days. And now these are not very old people. These are really healthy, relatively young people. But it maybe tells us that there's a lot of potential here that hasn't been tapped, and the people that we're talking to are saying it isn't that easy to find avenues in the community to use up all this tremendous potential that people have. But not only is it an issue then of people using what they have, they're also saying we can become more than we are. We're not done growing and developing. And so we think that if there's an extensive reality about that, then there's a great deal of potential here for our community too. And as communities age, this group of people becomes very important to communities. I mean, when you think about what these people could do in a community like ours, if they were fully used, and if we could somehow create the processes that would be needed to bring all that off.
And challenged to become more.
Yeah.
In addition to fully used, challenged to grow.
So that
and
we
given
can
opportunities to grow.
I can't imagine, so I'm going to fall into that category where no one's going to be looking at my potential.
Right.
And that doesn't even enter my mind. That kind of is scary.
I saw your face.
I was like, what? I have a lot of potential. I think people think about volunteering, I'm gonna lick envelopes, or I'm gonna put postage stamps on, and you're just changing that whole idea of what volunteerism can be.
And that's important because the mail needs to go out.
Yes, it is important.
Absolutely, but that's not the only slot that should be there.
Exactly.
And we think that perhaps government, education, the nonprofit sector, and business may need some support from us to be able to use people at a high level. And so we're not assuming that the community is just ready today, and if one of us shows up out there and says, hey, we're ready to give you some leadership and plug in, that the community would know what to do with us. In fact, we suspect that many times the community wouldn't know what to do with us.
So how do you start?
Start at the very beginning.
And here
Isn't
we
that the
are, start
song?
at the very beginning.
Yes.
So here we are, really at the very beginning.
Right.
And so if I was a business or a nonprofit, I too could go in on that
Absolutely.
website.
We're beginning. We have our cards as we speak.
Fresh off the press.
Yes, exactly. And a little fact sheet about what we're doing.
Okay.
And Donna's going to be hitting the road to talk with civic organizations that would like her to come out and talk about the retiree connection and what the possibilities are and how to be involved, women's groups, etc. But she's also going to be going to businesses to talk with them and say, where are you? Are you senior friendly? Are you ready to go? How can we help? You know, let's not make this, oh, you're not ready, so therefore you haven't been paying attention. Nobody's been paying attention. No. But the fact that we're ready to go now, it's time to start paying attention because we've got a lot of different things to offer. So we're going to build a file of places that are interested, a nonprofit that says, you know, my accountant left 6 months ago, the audit's coming up in another 3 months. Boy, would I love someone to take a quick kind of look at our books to help us get in shape for this. And I only need them for 10 days, you know, and that's it. And we might have some money, we might not have money. You know, do you have anybody that can help put us together? I got a call the other day from a scientist who's working on an idea with the school systems to find other scientists that will do experiential learning applications of science and perhaps travel around or form a science center. So he called because he heard and he said, you know, do you have, you know, a group of scientists that are ready to go? And we don't because we're just starting. But when people go to the website and fill in their skills, we'll have a group of retired scientists who want to be involved with an activity like this.
You know, our community, like all communities, has a large number of unmet needs. We know about a lot of things that we would change or accomplish if we had the manpower, the money, and so on. Well, we were thinking then that, well, this tremendously large group of people have a lot of time. We have, those of us who are retired, we have a lot of time. That's one thing we have. We also are willing to lead, perhaps, in some ways that other community leaders might not feel free to lead. We have a little less to lose. If I'm going to go out there and advocate for some community change, I'm not going to lose my job if somebody doesn't like it. So actually, I think that there's enormous potential for mobilizing seniors or retired people around issues that need attention in the community but are currently not getting enough attention. Right. So one of our strategies is to think about leadership development in this group. Now that doesn't mean that we think that retirees don't have leadership skills. We know they do. But we do think that we could provide some support in gathering them around issues where they might contribute and helping them learn about leading change in maybe some sophisticated ways.
And really, you know, now with the economic change, the change in administration, grassroots is so important with, you know, legislative issues. And sometimes it does just take someone to help bring people together for whatever that cause might be. And then once you bring them together, then that energy goes.
Yeah, and I was writing something the other day, and I'm really happy with one of the lines I wrote, so I'm more than happy to share it
You
now.
shall quote it now.
Exactly. I'll quote myself because it was pretty good. I was talking about the demographics here, and you know, 30% over 55 or 50 years of age, and how older adults in our culture are portrayed as a drain on society, drain on the budget, drain on this, drain on that, drain. And basically, what flowed out of my pen was no society, no community can be healthy when 30% of its citizens are seen as a drain on society. And we're trying to counteract that myth, number one, because it is a myth, but we're trying to show in a positive way, wait a minute, this isn't a drain, this is a resource that we haven't even begun to utilize. So that's what, again, from a model perspective, as we learn more from the participants, as we learn more from the community feedback, we'll have a better sense of how an aging community ages and what are the sort of the best ways to go about it.
You know, so that goes right along with one of your strategies to change that societal mindset towards aging, towards older workers. What does that mean and how does that look? And I know just in our agency, so many folks are retiring at once. And so we need to come up with new creative ways to either use volunteers or have a menu of choices for the older workers to keep that wonderful knowledge base in our workforce and be able to give them choices on, okay, you can work 3 months and then have 3 months off, or whatever the case might be, or 2 days a week versus 5 days a week.
Actually, the question is, how would you like to work here?
Yeah. What's the menu would you like?
Now,
Yeah.
Instead of, here's what we think.
And we actually have 3 new folks on board that are retired from a different career.
Yeah.
And it's just been a joy using and taking their skills from that different career. One of them is a retired police officer who worked elder abuse in Los Angeles.
Wow.
He's now an ombudsman.
Wow.
and paid ombudsman. 20 hours a week, it fits perfect for him, uses those old skills. You know, he doesn't get to be the investigator so much anymore, but what a great mix that has been for us. And, you know,
and
how
what a
do we...
shame to have that talent not utilized.
Right.
I mean, that's really it. If you've got talent in times of diminishing resources as things are being painted now, we have to find ways to get the most talent out there and helping. And
not think, okay, all my workers have to work 8 to 5, and
they
all have to be on there full time, and everybody, you know. And also some of the older workers that I work with would prefer not to have benefits. They'd rather have a little more money, and some would rather have benefits and not as much money.
Right.
And that's also another option. So this is a skills bank, but it's also some place you could find opportunities for part-time work, consulting, volunteering.
Yeah, I wouldn't say part-time work, again, because there's
Okay.
job banks
Consulting.
for that. Consulting.
Okay.
And the other interesting thing about this is, you know, we've been on this for a while, and there's some research that came out a year ago from MetLife and Civic Ventures, which is really kind of watching what the baby boomers are doing. And they studied leading-edge baby boomers, those that are just getting ready to retire. And 57% of them said two things that really excited me. One is they knew they were going to need to continue to work somehow. And secondly, their criteria for getting back into the community and doing things was that they wanted to do purposeful activity.
Yeah.
That's the baby boom generation who raised their children, washed the car, chased the dog around, went grocery shopping, and sort of disappeared for a while. I think that this research shows that those values that they had about changing the community and supporting the community and making it healthier, I think that 57% saying, I want to do something of purpose, is an indication that they're back in a different form.
We're not assuming, though, Mary, that people who are retired have a great deal of clarity about what they'd like to accomplish with this period of their life. And this period, as you said, it might be very long. So one thing that we're going to begin in February is a 4-week dialogue for retired people who would like to get more clarity about this period. And so in 12 hours altogether, over 4 consecutive weeks, people will get a chance to, one, meet other people in retirement who are interested in their own growth and development. We'll exchange about how we're experiencing retirement. And in our test runs on this dialogue so far, the results have been very fascinating. We're revealing all our secrets, as I said, like, oh, well, sometimes my wife and I don't leave the house for 2 or 3 days, secrets like that. And then help people explore what it is that they would like to do and be. And we think that this stuff is bubbling up in people's consciousnesses all the time. We're not starting from scratch with people, we understand that. But then we'll develop strategies for people to move toward the vision that emerges for this period of their life, and a plan of action, and we'll help people figure out the kinds of support they need in their life. Maybe some of that support will come from the Retiree Connection for this next step into this really creative and productive part of life.
And service is a component.
And service, yeah.
So is this set up like a class? You can sign up for it, or are you choosing who's going to be in this conversation? How are you doing that?
We need people. We would like to invite your viewers to go to the college website that Dennis talked to you about, find the Retiree Connection, and please come and fill out the questionnaire. It doesn't take but a few minutes about what you're thinking and about what you'd like to do. And from that group, one question we ask people, would you like to talk to other people in retirement about the future? And if you are one of those people who say yes, we'll follow up and invite you to think about coming into this dialogue. And we're not calling it a class, Mary, because it truly is a dialogue, what we've designed. We're not going to be lecturing to people. This is mostly a great opportunity for people to come and talk about this period of their life to gain some more clarity about what they might do. And
do some exploring. And sometimes when it's like brainstorming. It helps to bounce ideas off other people. And this is a very, very exciting program. Boy, I can spit that out.
Yeah, you're a professional.
I am. I'm a professional. I can talk. In the process that you've gone through to come to this retiree connection, I urge you to go on the website. We're going to be showing that, on the byline for everybody to write down. If you missed it, you can call 717-7607 and ask Crystal, and she'll let you know how to connect with the retiree connection. And really, thank you so much for being here today and helping us launch this project for you. Dennis Garvey, Dean of Division of Lifelong Learning, and Gary Stokes, a member of the Advisory Council, volunteer extraordinaire.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to have both of you here. And thank you very much for being here on Senior Moment. We always like to take a moment and just send you a little warning from the Yavapai County Elder Abuse Task Force. Recently, we've got a lot of phone calls, people calling up saying, I'm your grandson, I'm your grandchild, I need some money sent. Make sure they are your grandchild or your grandson. Don't give your information over the phone or send money until you know all the particulars. You can always call us toll free at 877-521-3500 at the Area Agency on Aging. I'm Mary Beals-Lutka. This is Senior Moment. Until next time.